The difference being I don't care. All right, folks, we're a few minutes early. I have Papa Carey with me today. You know him, you respect him, whether you love him or not, you respect him. And Dad's going to tell you a story, and I'm just going to sit back and let him do it. So, Dad, all yours.
Story here, son.
Kit Carson Scout.
What Kit Carson? Okay. If anyone's listening, I was in Vietnam. I was in what was called a cup team, which was nothing clandestine or secret. It was wide open and very well known. We were a small group of Marines, 10 Marines and one corpsman, myself, who would work a village in the area around the village. And we used to take prisoners now and then, and some of them even made it to the rear alive. And anyway, we had one time, just laugh and laugh and laugh. He thought everything was funny. Well, the teams had what they called a Kit Carson Scout, which was a Vietnamese who was our interpreter. I mean, for no other words than that, he was just our interpreter and our kind of our go-between for for the program and the local government and stuff. And he asked me one time if I knew what this guy was laughing about. And I said, no, I'm not really sure. I mean, I know by this time I'd pretty well got to know what situation he was getting into. And he said that he was laughing because he knew that our people weren't behind us. They had been shown the headlines and they'd been shown the newsreels and they'd been shown all the information about the peace demonstrations. And they knew that if they just fought longer and harder and dirtier, that our people would eventually pull us out. So whatever longer, harder, and dirtier, it's open to interpretation. But what it meant to me was that more Americans died and were injured because of the peace demonstrations, and an untold number of Vietnamese suffered for the same reason, because the Viet Cong and the NVA that we were fighting knew that all they had to do was hold out a little bit longer. And if they made it dirtier and dirtier, the people would be more and more inclined back in the States to yell for us to get out. So thank you very much, peace demonstrators. You caused myself, my Marines, and an untold number of Vietnamese misery beyond belief because of what you were doing. And no other way of putting it. It's that simple. The peace demonstrations caused misery.
Okay. Could you give us an example of these peace demonstrations that you might be referring to?
During the 60s and early 70s, a lot of primarily students, but a lot of non-student people would get into the streets and call for anti-war demonstrations. Bring the troops home, stop the war, do this, do that. And it increased from the mid 60s all the way up into the 70s until we actually did pull out. And it got, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
The demonstrations increased in numbers and timing and everything else until the mid 70s, or until we did pull out. And like I said, talking to this prisoner was saying that they were helping them because they, like I said, they could kill more Americans, make it miserable, and the Vietnamese especially were caught up in this tragedy. The local Vietnamese were decent people that just wanted to just wanted to have their families and their farms and be left alone. So anyway, I don't know what else to tell you, but they would go in the streets and they would have the signs and the screaming, and they would some of their radicals, not all of their radicals, some of their radicals would actually do some pretty bad damage, burn things down, cause explosions, stuff like this. But your run of the mill demonstrator, I don't think was into that stuff. So,
I was going more towards, could you name anybody that particularly comes to mind?
well, yeah, and I can't think of his name. He's a senator. Sometimes I like to just
Um,
blank that stuff out.
okay,
So,
memory refreshed exception. John Kerry.
John Kerry, the wonderful John Kerry, got tons of medals, and he threw them out, in one of the demonstrations. But later on, when they were interviewing him in a news broadcast, all these medals were still being displayed in his office. So I'm not sure exactly what it is he threw out, or he sure as hell didn't throw out his intentions. So
You cut
yeah,
out right out the part where you said where this demonstration was held. Where was it?
the particular one we're talking about, I believe, was held at the Pentagon, and several Vietnam veterans participated in it, not just him. And there were many Vietnam veterans who were involved in these demonstrations. Where the vote was, I can't tell you. Where their outcome was, I can tell you that it was on us. So
Okay. I'm going to make a second memory refreshed exemption. How about Jane Fonda? Does that name ring a bell?
I don't know if she was involved in any of the street demonstrations, but she went to North Vietnam to tell them that how wonderful they were doing, and how all the Americans weren't like that, and all this stuff. She met with some prisoners. There were some false stories talked about her turning some prisoners in for giving her a note. That didn't happen. Um, there was she sat on a anti-aircraft gun and was filmed, and made a speech, and I think she sang a song. Uh, Years later, she said she didn't regret. I don't think she regretted the trip. I think she regretted being exposed as a traitor, and so she
Regret.
apologized for it. So she apologized because she was, you know, didn't mean to really harm anybody, but I think it was more because she was just exposed to be a
Apology.
traitor. Of course, since then, since she was politically correct, and the people that didn't go over, the ones that participated in the demonstrations, are the ones that are writing today's history. She's now a cult hero, and so is Carrie. Carrie. Anyway, that's the people that were involved in them are today's cult heroes because they were politically correct. And when we came home from Vietnam, I got spit on, paint thrown on the bus. And they were doing the same thing to everybody that came with. I saw some of my Marines risk their lives saving Vietnamese. So it's all false. All the crap they're talking about what we did over there. Bad things happened. They were documented. I'm not even going to say that it's not true, but the general run of the mill trooper over there wasn't like that.
Okay.
We were
Um,
evil. We were despicable.
all right. I'm gonna, folks. Here's the part where those of you that were on Discord, you're gonna find out. My dad's gonna be really, really mad at me here for a minute. You know what? He's right. So, Dad, I'm sorry. All right. I apologize. But this had to be done. All right. Share screen. Okay.
taken any offense to anything you've done so far.
Well, hold on.
Syria. Bring
Let's see
our
if this goes
troops
through.
home. This is the only way that we're going to prevent ourselves from being
It's not
dragged
going
deeper
through.
and
Why is it
deeper
not
into
going
a war
through?
with Iran.
Let me try reloading it. I tested this earlier. It was working then.
I get the impression of what you're doing.
Policy are short-sighted, damaging, undermining our
Okay.
national security.
Why is it now not playing the audio? I mean, I'm not hearing it on my end either, so. All right, well, I hope you all trust me when I say that her exact words, this is 4 years ago. This is Tulsi Gabbard, people. You know, that same Tulsi Gabbard that everybody loves right now? We need this next remark on my part. This has nothing to do with her Second Amendment position. Those things changed. Mine did. All right. It has everything to do with what she did while she was in office. And I want to point out that Tulsi right now is a lieutenant colonel in the Army with the military police, I believe. 4 years ago, she was a major. Right. So, and there is a little bit of context. This is an anti-Trump speech. Well, okay, that part was also 4 years ago. I've seen a lot of people making this change.
Security. We need to get out of Iraq and Syria. Bring our troops home. This is the only way that we're going to prevent ourselves from being dragged deeper and deeper into a war with Iran.
So,
I'm sorry, what, Dad?
She was saying.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't hear it myself, and I'm sitting at the laptop that it's supposed to be playing from. I don't know what's going on. I'm really kind of unhappy about the situation. And just in case anybody thinks I'm full of shit, the link to that is in the description with the timestamp. You can start from the beginning all you want. I don't care. But the timestamp is the part that I was looking for. Yeah, do those comments sound familiar?
Extremely.
Extremely.
I'd like to add kind of that it just kind of proved the prisoner was correct. From that day forward, the same people have been whining about us going to war. And they knew that we would never stand up and finish what we started because people would never support it. So people such as Saddam Hussein and his ilk feared nothing from us. They didn't think we would follow through. I am not in any shape or form saying that war is anything other than just evil. Think of the most evil thing you can in your mind, and especially if you're a veteran, you can think, well, maybe a little closer. But if you're not a veteran, just think of the most evil thing you can think of in your mind. Multiply it by about 1,000, and you might maybe have a slight idea of how evil war can be. And so I'm not saying war is the answer to everything, nor is it is it glorious, nor anything. other than sometimes it's necessary.
Oh, that kind of hurt some feelings out there, I hope. Okay, so you know, that speech, that ad really is fundraising ad was 4 years ago. It's actually a little closer to 5 years ago now. Has anything transpired since then that sounds familiar to to the end of Vietnam?
When we got out of Afghanistan was even worse than Vietnam. At least in Vietnam, we told them we were leaving. We didn't leave or sacrifice our soldiers at the gate to make it look politically better. You know, he was satisfying his voters. He wasn't satisfying the Afghanis. He wasn't satisfying the world. He wasn't satisfying anybody except what he wanted votes. And he felt like if we pulled out really quick and fast, he'd get those votes. You know, never mind that we're leaving all the equipment behind. And no, I don't want to hear about the demilitarized all of that equipment. That's bullshit. And I don't want to hear that he did the right thing, because no, you know, you could see the panic on the runways. Those people knew what was coming next. They're not stupid people, you know, and about 99.99% of those people are just like the Vietnamese. They just want to have a family and live. And they knew exactly what was going to happen, and they knew it, pulling out as fast and as timing and everything, and the lack of any kind of notification was an indication of how much we were going to support them. And it showed the world how much we were going to support our friends. You know, when our friends get in the way of votes, we'll abandon the friends and go with the votes. So just let's be politically correct in office.
I want you all to timestamp that abandon our friends comment in your heads. Okay. Oh, excuse me. So, Dad, I'm going to share something else. First of all, I got to make sure I have it up, and that's not the one I wanted. Let me try again. Because I never opened it. Just a second, folks. I am sorry for this. And I'm going to zoom this up a bit because I want you all to be able to read it. Now, I hope you can. Funny thing, there's a quote out there that is commonly attributed to Niccolo Machiavelli, as in the author of The Prince. Machiavelli is this evil, twisted genius and blah, 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 right? I read The Prince, cover to cover. I was just looking for this quote. That's it. That's the only thing I wanted, is I wanted this quote. I wanted to know what chapter it was. I wanted to know which page it was. I wanted to be able to cite which publisher it was. At least then I could say, yes, see, he really said the words. Well, he not only did he never say the words that I'm thinking of, but he said exactly the opposite. And amongst other things, I want to make sure this is coming through first. Very good. Dad, all right. I know you're not going to love this, but damn it. Stay where I put you. Okay. From chapter 3 concerning mixed principalities. The Romans, foreseeing trouble, dealt with them at once, and even to avoid war, would not let them come to a head, for they knew that war was not to be avoided, but is only to be put off to the advantage of others. Moreover, they wished to fight Philip and Antiochus in Greece, so as not to have to do so so as not to have to do it in Italy. For time drives everything before it, and it is able to bring with it good as well as evil, and evil as well as good. All right. So what Papa Carey was saying a moment ago about sometimes war is unavoidable, it's to be put off to the advantage of others when it is unavoidable. To apply this to our own times, I know people out there think I'm crazy. I don't give a shit. I don't give a fuck if you think I'm crazy. I'm right. To apply this to our own times, Iran and her allies, and I mean subordinate allies, her vassal states, Russia and China, have turned us against each other using advocacy for DEI and trans inclusion, knowing that hatred. Wait a minute, I think I'm reading the wrong one. To apply this to our own times, the West wishes to fight Iran and BRICS in Ukraine and Taiwan, so as not to have to do so in Berlin, Washington, and London. Actually, it's Berlin, London, and Washington, D.C. All right. If you'd rather fight them on our own soil, hey, okay, great. Let's give up Afghanistan. Oh, wait, we already did that. Let's give up Iraq. Well, we did that, and it almost blew up in our faces. And you know what? Let's give up Taiwan and Ukraine while we're at it. Let's just, walk away from everybody. All right. The rest of this quote is, the rest of this screen share. Some princes, so as to hold securely the state, have kept their subject towns distracted by factions. Others have fostered enmity against themselves. Those who were, he went on to cite a couple of examples. Those who were reckoned wise were accustomed to saying that it was necessary to hold pistoia by factions. And with this idea, they fostered quarrels in some of their tributary towns so as to keep possession of them more freely. But this is not a good plan. It is certain that when the enemy comes upon you in the divided cities, you are quickly lost, because the weakest party will always seek the assistance of outside forces, and the other will not have the ability to resist. That's from chapter 2, the one I quote so often about why the prince should arm the people. Our fortresses and many other things to which princes often resort, advantageous or hurtful. All right. So I'm going to go back to that side react. To apply this to our own times, Iran and their allies have turned us against each other, using advocacy for DEI and trans inclusion, knowing that this hatred, and it is hatred, and I'm not going to apologize for that, sex change operations for children, not adults. We don't give a fuck about adults. You're an adult, you go do what you want. But for children, as the Flint, and overt support for certain factions, public declarations of support for Kamala specifically, as the powder. The covert support of opposition, tenant media. I'm talking about tenant media here. Serves as the powder in the pan, and support for the more action-oriented factions, Antifa, is the ball. Make no mistake, all of this has been a long-term military operation intended to weaken us by turning us against each other. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Iran was behind the anti-trans and DEI movements. I kind of allude to that by mentioning tenant media. All right. Shit. Iran should be sponsoring my channel. I'd be worth billions to them because I can keep that fucking fire burning a lot longer than you people can ever begin to imagine. Dad, any ass chewing you want to give me? Go ahead. I deserve it.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you totally.
Oh, that's not the answer I was expecting.
Okay.
All right. Well, okay. I know I have another thing to share. Oh, yeah, okay. So I'm going to do this in a moment because it's a whole lot less vitriolic. Bernie, Squatch, DJ, if you're still out there somewhere, you probably are going to be the only ones to see this. All right, because there's a really good chance that this is going to be ripped off YouTube faster than I can say the words. It was ripped. I want to make sure I covered everything else that I really did want to, because I wrote notes this time. Oh, okay, great. Dad doesn't actually have too much to say here, I think, but I'm going to get into a little bit of a rant. There are people who keep telling me, look at Britain. They have essentially, all right, I know there's exceptions to the rule, but they have essentially banned guns. Look at Japan. They have essentially banned guns. Again, there's exceptions, but like 1/100th the exceptions that Britain has, which is basically, yeah, no, it's never going to happen for you. Look at them; they're so safe. They don't have mass shootings. That's true, right? Well, actually, no, that's not true. Britain still has mass shootings. They just don't have them at the kind of rate that we do. But that's not the whole story. All right. First of all, I did a breakdown of U.S. versus British deaths for the year 2017. I acknowledge and accept the fact that that's 7 years old now. And at the time that I did it, it was 2019. So it was already a couple years old. That was the last year at that point when I could get all of the applicable numbers. All right. In 2019, there was no numbers for Britain for certain metrics. I want to say it was the because 2019 was a year when a major mass shooting happened in Britain. I want to say it was the I could not get the population figures for Britain that year. Now there's an objection to my numbers, and I'm going to acknowledge it exists. All right. The way I got the numbers for the British population that year, I could not get Britain by itself, but I could get United Kingdoms, Scotland, and Wales. I did not think to look if I could get the population, or actually, yes, I did. I did not include Ireland in the next part of the equation because I wasn't sure if they were counted or not in the United Kingdom's population numbers. Okay, so I took the United Kingdom's population numbers. I subtracted Wales and Scotland. I got 33 million. There is a very, very strong objection, and it's never going to go away, by one person in the entire universe. So yes, David, you are affecting the channel just in the grossly negative. He says the population for 2017 was 66 million. Okay, that's the objection. I'm going to acknowledge it exists. I'm standing by my 33 number. Here's the thing. For that year, there was about 600 gun murders in Britain. It's my source said gun deaths. Well, there are no legal gun deaths. There's no self-defense in Britain. and the conditions under which Britons can own guns are so strict, the chances of an accident are 0. They don't exist. All right? You're not even allowed to load the fucking gun until you're on the line. So for somebody to say that there was an accidental or negligent or some other discharge that led to a gun death in Britain, you're lying to me. You're just lying to me, and I'm starting to get a little heated right now, so I'm going to move on to the next part. For the United States for that year, it was around 300 million. Okay, either metric, let's just round it off to the Renfro standard, 300 million, 30 million, or 60 million, right? It's either 5 or 10 times as many. The United States only had around 1,500 gun murders in 2017. That's a little less than 3 times as many gun murders in the United States versus Britain. You know what? I'm feeling charitable, all right? I'm going to go with the 60 million population, and I'm going to round off the United States to 2,000 because it's a little more than 3 times as many. This math is still not hard to do. You have 600 gun murders for 60 million people, or 2,000 for 300 million. Anybody in the chat want to do the math for me? Because off the top of my head, I'm saying it's still roughly 5 times as many gun murders per capita in Britain as the United States for that year. Oh, some win, huh? Dad, bring me back to reality, please.
Sure, to bring you all the way back. I can't bring you that far. So yeah, you're trying to stretch it out there a little bit.
Yeah, well, he's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. Sorry, go ahead. Okay. Yes, David, you're having an effect, but it's a negative exponent, which is going to bring me to the last subject. Yeah, this is the one I started to tell you about this. What was it? Thursday? No, Wednesday, just before the appointment about math. So, kind of brace yourself a little bit. Folks, Papa Kerry was a hospital corpsman, and I was bosun's mate. The reason being that neither one of us were really, really great at math. There is a mathematical formula, a linear equation to the exponential. Now, if you ever go through and you see those really cute parabolic lines on a graph, that's where somebody, rather than mx plus b equals y, they did m to the power of x plus b equals y. And if the exponent is a positive number, the numbers when you're in the negative territory are going to keep going down, but somewhere the y hits 0, and then everything starts going up from there. All right. And I know communists and socialists, I'm a little bit socialist, so back off. And some others are going to say, well, see, that proves our economic. No, it doesn't. But in the meantime, if that exponent is a negative number, it doesn't matter what you do. It will always be, y will always be a negative. Every gun law is that negative exponent. It's literally, you ban the NFA, for example, banned automatic weapons in the hands of the public. Right? That's the only gun control law, I agree with the concept, not the application. The way it was applied, stupid. Absolutely retarded. But at least the concept behind it was more like a -1, as opposed to literally everything that's come behind it, which is taking that -1 and turned it into exponentially bigger numbers. -1, -100, or -10. -100 was the Hughes Amendment, which it was packed into the middle of a much larger, actually good law at 2 in the morning of the day of the vote. So they managed really, they got that one in there pretty good. The 1991 assault weapons ban, right? That was like a -1,000. For those of you that are old enough to remember Columbine, I would like to remind you that the assault weapons ban was passed, in 1994. All right, Columbine happened in 1999. I know because that's the year I went into the military. I was at MEPS getting processed to go to boot camp when just one day I randomly turned on the TV. CNN was on, and breaking news, live feed from Columbine, Colorado, mass shooting at a high school, and a big sign in the window saying we're alive and begging for help. Right? That was a huge fucking negative exponent Y points. Nobody since then has ever been able to explain anything that happened. One thing that they haven't been able to explain away is why every single time there's a would-be mass shooter and a would-be good guy with a gun, the shooting ends real fucking fast. Okay, Westfield Shopping Town in Clackamas, Oregon, the would-be good guy with the gun, he never fired. Okay. You know what? He was thinking about himself, his situation, his friend, her child. That's what he was worrying about first and foremost. And good for him. He was also thinking about, there's people downrange. If I open fire and I hit one of them, it's all my fault. Well, Mr. Melly, hopefully someday very soon, you will be relieved of that concern. As long as you acted at least reasonably prudently, you will be relieved of that concern. The Indiana mall shooter went into the head, people say for an hour. I don't know. It wasn't an hour. Was it 10 minutes? Just get the gun out, get it loaded, and get ready to go out and start getting that high score. I don't know. I do know that there's photographs of himself, in the mirror at the time of the shooting. He shows the gun, right? Then he goes outside, and Mr. Erickson, I believe was his name, dropped him like a sack of shit. Now here's another interesting statistic. Because the sample set is infinitesimally small, we can't really know yet. But of all of the self-defense justifiable shootings, I could only find over the course of 20 years 3 people who were hit in the crossfire, and 2 of the 3 were law enforcement related. All right, cops shooting back at bad guys who were actively shooting. There's a little bit more to at least the one story. The cop apparently thought he had his backside, his backstop was clear, and he started shooting, and then somebody ran out from behind cover or concealment. and he didn't know that they were there until it was too late. And that's unfortunate, but that did happen. He would also be relieved of his guilt under data slough, but let's move on past that for a moment. The other one, he was unceremoniously fired. Okay. The third one, I don't know the whole story because I couldn't find, I couldn't find basically anything other than an innocent bystander was shot in the crossfire. I don't actually know if it was the good guy with the gun or the bad guy with the gun. But the words innocent bystander in that context, there's no way you can say innocent bystander when it's the bad guy with the gun doing the shooting. He's doing exactly what he intended to do there. I'm just saying. But that's all I could really find on that case. Every other time, I couldn't find anything. Yes, the sample size is pretty small. But you know what? This story about good guy with the gun hitting innocent bystander, you're going to have to do a whole lot better than assume that it's going to happen at this point. I want to go back to the Indianapolis mall shooting case. Mr. Erickson fired about 10 rounds. 8 of them were pulled out of the shooter's body. The 9th one appears to have gone through and through. And it happens. That happens. Bullet entered and then exited. Okay. The 10th round was clearly not on target, and we can't know which one was the 10th round, but it's pretty strong suggestion because of the angle that was the last shot. He failed to lead the target properly because the target was going down and going down fast. Now, Papa Kerry saw me pass out. What was it? 3 weeks ago?
When you passed out?
Yeah, on the landing that one night.
No, it was a little further than that, but it did happen. Correct.
Okay. How fast did I go from standing? Well, oh shit, you weren't standing there, folks. I can tell you, I went from standing straight up to barely holding myself up off the deck because I didn't fully pass out. Faster than I can say the words. Out. Not past, just out. All right? Gravity works when you let it. And my supposition, based on nothing resembling evidence, is Erickson, when he took the shot, yeah, it was on target. And by the time the bullet got there, it was no longer on target. This is not luck that he didn't hit anybody in the crossfire. It's that he knew exactly where he was and what he was doing, and he did what he had to do. It's bad guys with guns who don't have to worry about backstops and aiming. Just start throwing shit out there, and sooner or later, somebody's going to get hurt. That's all they need to do. Dad, you got anything to add to that?
Nathan.
Say again?
Just know that studies and surveys are always come out the way the funding party wants them to. So, take it for what it's worth.
Ouch. True, but ouch. Okay, I'm going to hide that. I'm going to stop sharing that screen after I explain why this is important. Every gun law turns this curve down. Not just keeps it going down on its current path, but actually increases the drop. right? It becomes an exponent on the exponent, which until I took high school math in college for the third time and finally passed, I thought was not even a thing. Well, apparently it is. Right. Stop doing that. Stop doing the thing that gets people hurt just because it makes you feel better about yourself. Dad, do you have anything you want to add at this point? Okay. I'm going to get into a little bit, a very, very short rant. What Machiavelli and what Pappa Carey were saying about supporting the weakest side. If we don't continue to support Ukraine and Taiwan and the other countries that are being threatened by Russia and Iran and China, we're going to see them fucking steamroller us. A year and a half ago, I was saying that Ukraine is Poland 1938. Well, now I'm starting to say Ukraine is Britain 1941. Because despite everything that's just been thrown at them, they are still holding on. And nobody else is. Or, well, nobody, I mean, the U.S. gave Britain aid, which, by the way, every year of World War I, we gave Britain more money than we have given Ukraine from 2014 to 2023, right? Apparently there was something in December of 2023 that changed the equation. Okay, fine. We still gave Britain more money every year of World War II, just purely military aid, bombs, bullets, planes, ships, tanks, rifles, than we had given Ukraine in 9 years at that point. I'm just saying. There's going to be an outside faction that supports the weaker faction in the domestic difficulty, domestic affairs. It's as simple as that. All right, Dad, we got one last question for you. Dad, can you hear me? Is this my natural hair color?
Green?
Green?
Doesn't look as green as your normal hair color, no. So.
Well, you know, I did wash it today, but this is my natural hair color, right?
You say so.
Okay, Dad. Thanks. All right.
That's your natural. I had to give you a hard time. Sure, your natural hair color is green, son.
Because somebody's got to be the weird one. Folks, that's going to wrap it for today. I want to thank everybody who made it or tried to make it. I know Bernie was out there as of 30 minutes ago. I hope we're 20 minutes ago. I hope we're still live. Shit. Squatch was out there. And I saw DJ Play Nice, but his comment was before the stream, so of course it cut him out. So sorry, DJ. I know you're out. I know you were out there somewhere. With that, folks, I'm going to turn you loose because me and Dad have some things we need to deal with today. Sorry, Dad. Until I can do this again, folks, keep calm and mandatory carry on. Good night, everybody.